A woman's autonomy over her own body is one of the pillars of feminism, and Destiny Herndon-DeLaRosa, founder of Dallas-based New Wave Feminists, proudly defines herself as one. But the group is different than other feminist organizations because its members espouse a pro-life position. She joined us to talk about her organization's mission, not to change abortion laws, but to reduce the factors that lead women to choose not to carry unwanted pregnancies to term. Destiny, welcome to Think.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your organization subscribes to what you call a consistent life ethic. Explain what falls under that definition.
Yeah, so basically it's this belief that human beings should be free from violence for the duration of their life. So that ends up meaning we are anti-war, anti-torture, anti-death penalty, and then we just extend that into the womb by being anti-violence when we are at our most weak and vulnerable as a fetus. But of course that puts us in a very weird spectrum because we agree with a lot of people on the left, but also a lot of people on the right. And it's just a matter of trying to broaden everyone's idea of what consistent nonviolence means.
Was there a point at which you struggled with the fact that you had a lot of beliefs that sort of tracked with mainstream feminism, but you also disagreed with abortion?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think the best part of, feminism for me is it's a movement born out of rebellion and independence. And so being able to have an idea that's different, I think completely fits with what we're talking about. And so as I kind of wore the label of feminist and started putting it out there, I found so many women who had said, I never thought that I could call myself a feminist, but even though I agree, lock and step with everything except for the abortion issue. And so we're seeing that now that we are very public about the fact that pro-life feminism is a thing, it's not an oxymoron like everyone believes, we have just women coming out of the woodwork saying, how can we work with you? And we don't just focus on, in the pro-life movement, you call it like the fetal tunnel vision and just focusing on that, but we really want to address, why do women feel like they need to make this violent choice to begin with? Like, why are they so pressured that abortion seems like the best option? And I think one thing that we can agree with pro-choice feminists as well is nobody wants an abortion. It's not like when you're a little girl, you grow up dreaming about having an abortion. It's usually always a decision made out of fear and panic and chaos. And so if we can come together and say, how do we alleviate that crisis? How do we help a woman where she's at so that she can make life-affirming options? I think that's something we can all rally behind.
You are not working to make abortion illegal.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's plenty of pro-life groups who are, but for me, it's a matter of laws follow culture. And until we have a culture that values human life inside the womb, all you're going to do is run it underground. And so for me personally, I think the efforts need to be working for something. And I think a lot of even pro-life people my age, I'm in my 30s, we're so sick of being anti-everything. We're anti-abortion, anti-Planned Parenthood. What if we were for alternatives for women? I myself, I live here in Dallas. I'm an uninsured woman. And so when you talk about taking away Planned Parenthood, I personally don't go there, but I can absolutely understand why so many women would be afraid of not having alternative health care. And so I think it's so much more important that we're actually working towards offering alternatives rather than just taking away a form of health care that a lot of women feel very dependent on.
You're listening to Think. I'm Krys Boyd. To the extent that unwanted pregnancies still occur, what can pro-life feminists or anybody do to support women who are pregnant and not in a position to raise a child?
I think a lot of it is telling a woman she can do this. You are strong enough. You can do this. I actually faced a teen pregnancy myself when I was 16 years old, and I had many friends who chose abortion while I chose to carry to term, and for the first 6 months, I considered adoption. And it's funny when people say I'm anti-choice, because I'm like, that's all I felt like I had was choices. Even though abortion was never an option for me, there were so many things that I had to consider during that 9-month period. And then I had these friends who became pregnant as well, and they were going to be kicked out of their homes. Not only were they not going to have a support system once they had the child, but even the support system they currently had, they were at a risk of losing. It's more than voting a certain way or having a bumper sticker. It's really a matter of putting your time and talents where your beliefs are and helping that woman and saying, what, I have a spare room in my house. If you need a place to stay, we're going to help you. If you need help getting on some sort of Medicaid for the duration of the pregnancy, we're going to help you. And I think that more of the pro-life community is waking up about that. We cannot just be pro-fetus. We have to be pro-woman and actually helping a woman in this time of crisis.
There is a stigma to being pregnant when people around you know that you didn't intend to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to say it's going away, but I think that if the pro-life activists realize how much pressure and shame there is, when I was the 16-year-old girl. I remember I became pregnant right before summer break. So when I came back, I had this huge belly, and I was just walking the halls, and people were whispering and talking about me, and there was so much shame in that. Whereas there wouldn't have been a ton of shame in choosing abortion, because no one would have known that it had taken place. And so if we can empower women who are facing something that there is certainly a stigma to, and it is really embarrassing, and come alongside them, so they know they have somewhere to turn, I think that's vital in making a case for life.
Given the choice that you made, do you judge women who have made a different decision?
Absolutely not. Because again, I know that I had a support system. Some of them didn't. My boyfriend broke up with me, so I was single, but I still had family support, which I think that is so incredibly vital. And as I mentioned, I had peers who made the choice for abortion because they felt like they had no other choice. To me, that's a problem. When we call that pro-choice, but women are feeling coerced or forced into this choice, and a lot of times if they are given support or other options, they make better choices.
Do you feel welcome at general feminist events? Lots of people talked about the women's marches that took place around the country being not so friendly to pro-life feminists.
Yeah, it was actually our group that was a partner for that and got removed. And so the irony is, you talk about inclusion and diversity. And so when we filled out the application to become a partner, we made it very clear that we were pro-life, but we said, here are some other issues that we also agree with you guys on, talking about human trafficking and domestic abuse and the wage gap and things that we can actually address together. And so they accepted us, which we thought was amazing. Then a few days later, The Atlantic came out with an article kind of praising them for including pro-life feminists. And that's when there was this big Twitter backlash from some pro-choice feminists saying, you need to remove them. They absolutely can't be a part of this march. And something really cool happened from that, because we still went anyway. But basically, there was this national dialogue for about a week, I think, around a lot of dinner tables of who's allowed to be in our club, who's allowed to, sit at our feminist table. And so we had women come up to us at the Women's March in Washington. I pulled out my pro-life feminist sign very, apprehensively. And within about 45 seconds of having it, and it's a sign that says, I'm a pro-life feminist, and, hot pink and black lettering, this woman walks up to me and she said, I disagree with you on this issue, but I am so glad you're here. They should have never cut you from the partners list. And that repeated person after person after person. And it blew my mind, honestly, because, that morning I talked to my husband and he's like, okay, remember you have children, and who are you going to call if something goes down? And it was the exact opposite. I could not have imagined a more positive experience than my fellow feminists coming around me and saying, we need you in this fight. We're facing an administration that I think a lot of us are very concerned about. The misogyny in Donald Trump's past has no place in the future of America. And so we need more women in this fight together.
Is it possible to be politically pro-choice and personally pro-life?
I think it's a very nuanced issue. So certainly, in the pro-life movement, something that bothers me is everyone referring to the other side as pro-abortion. I don't think a lot of people are pro-abortion, honestly. Most of the people I meet say, I personally would never have an abortion, but I don't feel like I should put that on another woman and take away her rights. I think that's definitely something I can work with. What if you aren't taking away her rights? What if you're offering her support so she can make that life-affirming choice? Again, I think there's so much common ground in the fact that ultimately both sides care very, very deeply about women and children. And if we could just find ways to work together rather than working against one another, I think that'll be progress for all of us.
Destiny, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Destiny Herndon-DeLaRosa is a founder of New Wave Feminists.